wonderful returning guest.
I would love to. We are super excited to have Ross Blocher back again with us. And if you missed Ross's previous episode, I'm going to drop the link for you. It was about Noah's Ark. Not actual Noah's Ark. It was about the Ark Encounter. But, there's the link. And for those of you that don't know or missed that episode, Ross is an accomplished animation professional working at Disney. He has worked on numerous award-winning films, including The Princess and the Frog and the Simpsons movie, as well as Wish. And since early 2011, Ross has also co-hosted a skeptically themed weekly podcast called Oh No, Ross and Carrie, which is an investigative journalism podcast produced in Los Angeles and distributed by Maximum Fun Network. And the hosts personally investigate claims about spirituality, fringe science, religion, and the paranormal, and then they discuss their findings on the show. And the motto of the podcast, which I love, is "We show up so you don't have to." And you can learn more about Ross at his website, which I will drop in the links for you. And those of us behind the scenes in the pre-show just also learned about Ross a few minutes ago that he is ranked number 84 in the world pi ranking list for being able to tell the number of digits after the decimal point in pi out to like something like 3,000 places. So there's a link to Ross doing that as well. And Ross, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And please begin your recital now. I'm just kidding.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the great introduction. Yeah, oh my goodness. A lot to cover there. So the pi thing, yeah, I just sprung that on everybody when they asked me to do a mic check and I started saying digits of pi. Yeah, that's the fast version of this. So years ago, my dad, who was a math teacher, now a retired math teacher, he had an extra credit assignment for his students, and it was to memorize 35 places of pi. But he had a sheet written out, and as a 10-year-old, I memorized everything on the sheet, which was 105 digits of pi. And I've always just kind of had that and can rattle it off the top of my head. And when I'll do a little piece, but I won't take a lot of time here. 3.14159265358979323846264338327950288419716939. It goes on. It checks out. Don't worry. But when I was an adult, a friend said, "Oh, I'd be really impressed if you knew 150," just as a joke when we were having dinner once. So while we were talking under the table, I looked up pi and I memorized up to 150 and then said, "Quiz me." And I realized I could still do this as an adult. So, yeah, my current record is 3,200, and hopefully I can go for a new one this coming year. So.
That's incredible. I am so impressed. And I'm seeing several people in the chat who have similar sentiments to what we all were thinking when you told us that. Like, wow, I thought I was impressive for being able to do, 30 or 10 or 6 digits.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
equivalent
wow.
of 200 credit cards of memorized numbers.
So don't let Ross see your credit card if you go to dinner together or anything. He might
if you learn nothing
memorize it.
else today, yeah, don't say your password around me. It could be dangerous.
Good to know.
Um, yeah, well, let's talk about the Scientology investigation. And you nicely set up Ono, Ross, and Carrie. We investigate all kinds of things, and both of us come from Christian backgrounds, so we are also recovering from religion. Talked about that a bit last time when I was going over my visit to the Noah's Ark, replica
You
encounter.
brave soul.
Yeah.
Brave man.
Well,
For
you know,
you and your pocket. You and
I like to think that what got me out of religion is kind of what keeps me going, and that's just interest in people who I disagree with. And I had a college professor who told me about this series of skeptics lectures in Pasadena. I started attending those and kind of had my arms crossed either physically or mentally for, a year and a half, but eventually they won me over. I read the books, I started learning some important remedial science because I myself was a literal 6-day creationist. Anyways, eventually I had the long talk with God and came around. But that spirit, I think, continues into my investigations with Carrie that we do on the podcast. And as Kara mentioned, our slogan is "We show up so you don't have to." Now that leaves plenty of room for you to follow along. So if you see this today and you're like, "I want to join Scientology," that's great. You don't have to, but you can. By the way, did we answer the question in the poll from earlier?
Oh yeah, let me pull up. You want to see the poll results and we can go
Sure.
over the answers?
This might be
Okay,
good. I don't know if this is good follow-up information or good setup information, but we'll use it as setup information.
we'll use it. Yeah. So
Oh,
we had our first question was, have you or a family member or friend ever been involved in Scientology? And almost no one answered yes to that. Actually, we had 4% of people who have a friend or family member who's currently a member. Um, 1% of people have a friend or family member who was formerly a member. 7% of people, that was the biggest one, were recruited or considered joining but did not join. And then 3% of people are stuck on the mailing list. 6% are a potential trouble source or suppressive person, Helen. And 84% of people did not have experience with this.
I found what a potential trouble source when Chris Shelton was on, and I was like, oh my God, I want that as a title.
Yes, we have been calling Helen a potential trouble source ever since that episode, and now it's all come full circle.
So,
Yes.
so Ross, were you ever approached to be part of Scientology?
I mean, prior to our investigation, not really, not in any concentrated form. Like I was maybe body routed on the street. Now I know what that's called, where someone kind of grabs you and wants to sort of take over your time and move you off of the street into the building to take one of these services. But for this investigation, we really put ourselves in there. We asked to be that, and that should have raised all of their warning flags. The fact that we wanted to get involved and get started, because that's pretty rare. Which kind of goes to that last question on the poll, which is how many members Scientology has worldwide. The,
Mm-hmm.
the true answer there is they're lucky if it's 35,000 worldwide. It's much smaller than they want you to think it is.
Well, and that's a lot smaller than you would think, based on just
Yeah.
seeing like some of these huge buildings and hearing people talk about it. Absolutely, they make it sound like it's this giant organization, but 35,000, that's tiny. Like I know people that like went to high schools that probably have more people than that. And
Yeah, and
that
they
might be a little bit exaggerated, but not much.
that's a big high school, but yeah,
Yeah.
when they roll out one of their new buildings, because they have a lot of money locked up in real estate, and they'll buy, important buildings in a town, and then, turn it into an ideal org, and they'll fly people from all over the world to come over and make the launch look really big, razzmatazz, big bows, ribbon cutting, and confetti balloons, and then they'll send everybody home, and then that building lays mostly dormant and empty for the years of its future. So there's a lot of examples of that around. So it's kind of helpful to know, kind of reassuring, just that it's not as large as they would have you think.
So are
That
they
is
just
kind of
paying?
reassuring.
So are they
Yeah, go
just
ahead.
paying rent on a building that is not being used, or
Oh
did
no,
they pay?
they'll buy it outright,
Or they
because
just buy cash? Oh,
that's
oh
a,
wow.
that's a good way for them to use the money that they have to lock it up.
Oh
So
yeah.
um, yeah, and well, that's a whole separate talk just
Yeah, so
about kind of
I was just like, because like I didn't, because obviously they had a lot of money, and I just didn't think that they would pay cash. I thought they were just paying like rent on a building, and I was like, I'm like, that seems like a dumb idea. So,
yeah,
and now
it's
when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes more sense.
it's
Okay.
a way for them to hide money.
I'm
Well,
okay.
let me go ahead and share my screen. So what I wanted to do today is we've had this a series on Scientology that we started in 2016. So a lot of people have heard it, and I'm hoping some of you listening have heard it as well. In which case, you'll have a lot of context for this, because one thing that we do at Ono Ross and Carrie is we go into excruciating detail on everything that we investigate. So we find people who are similarly obsessed with fine details and knowing all they can about the teachings of L. Ron Hubbard and kind of everything that comes with it. So it's a multi-part series, but I'll hopefully also be giving enough contextual information as we walk through some of these images. And I thought that would be fun to do today, kind of like we did with the Ark, because podcasting is an inherently audio format, and so we'll talk about things, but you don't necessarily get to see them. So this is a fun opportunity for me to just go through my records and pull a bunch of images and share them. I have way too much content here, so I'll kind of move through it, and then at some point, someone will have to pull out the shepherd's crook and make me stop. So the way we got into this, again, it was late 2015, and we've been doing the podcast for a few years. We started in 2011, and people used to always ask us, well, great, whatever you're talking about, cool, you joined the Mormons and got baptized. Have you done Scientology? Have you done Scientology? Have you done Scientology? Realize I can use the Zoom format here. And so really our podcast kind of breaks down into BS before Scientology and AS after Scientology. And I kind of tricked Carrie into it because we were both nervous. Scientology has a well-deserved reputation for just hassling former members, people who've gotten out, people who say anything against Scientology, people who try to share its internal documents or history, and either suing people or publicly besmirching them and making websites about how terrible they are. Chris Shelton, who's been on this show before, he's been the target of some of that propaganda. And so we were, I think, justifiably a little hesitant about jumping in. But also, we thought they might even know who we are. Who knows how well their defenses are? Are they aware that there's podcasters in town who join religious groups and talk about them? Overall, the answer to that seems to be no. I think every group is kind of out for themselves and doesn't really participate in any sort of like sharing network to be like, watch out for these two, which is very good for us. So what brought this all about and the way that I tricked Carrie into this investigation was that we were doing another side investigation on personality type indices. And so we'd taken a couple quizzes and I said, hey, wouldn't it be fun just to like walk into Scientology and take their personality test? And Carrie's like, oh, all right, okay, let's just do this one thing. Meanwhile, I was kind of hoping that we would just sort of get into it and start doing it, which is what eventually happened. So this image I'm sharing right now is just me looking up on my phone on the Scientology Los Angeles website about their most accurate and reliable personality test, the Oxford Capacity Analysis. So we wandered down. At the time, Carrie was literally like down the block from this area. So we went down to where you can see the blue building. And for anyone near LA or who's seen a lot of Scientology material, you're probably familiar with this big blue. That's the colloquial term that it gets. Technically, I think it's Pacific Area Command within Scientology. But it's this, giant ideal org. And you can see it behind the Self-Realization Fellowship, which is another one of our investigations, which, falls nearby. There's a lot of stuff in LA. We picked a good place to do this podcast. So we walked up to it, and you could even see there on the street. First of all, I'll point out you've got the little Scientology cross. I don't know, can you see my cursor waving around? Is that useful?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll use that as my pointer. So you've got the little Scientology 8-pointed cross. We'll talk about those 8 dynamics later. But as you proceed down, this is Sunset Boulevard, you can see the sign. This is very common in front of Scientology places. Take your free personality test, get your free stress test. That's a quick way to get on the e-meter and hold the cans. And the tagline, all are welcome, which always gives us a chuckle, and gave us a chuckle then because we knew there were people who are not welcome in Scientology. And this is my journey to become one of those people. At the time, I was very welcome. Also, you'll notice, maybe you can see it here, the street is named L. Ron Hubbard Way. It doesn't belong to the church, even though they try to pretend it does, and they'll try to like push people off of it. But you can kind of stand your ground and say, nope, this is a public street. You have no right to tell me where I can or cannot be as long as I'm on public property. That will become relevant toward the end of this. And this is just one entrance to Big Blue, but this is kind of like where we would enter for our classes, services that we took. So they have you take this Oxford Capacity Analysis test, and they give you all these kind of warnings. Now, the implication here is that Oxford, the school, is somehow involved, and that it has this imprimatur of scholastic, fortitude. No, it has nothing to do with that Oxford. They're using the name because it gives them a little undue credence. This is something that is used just by Scientology. And so we have these sort of Scantron sheets and we're facing each other behind this little divider, filling out our 200 questions. Stuff like, do you often sing or whistle just for the fun of it? And could you agree to strict discipline? Or do you have spells of being sad and depressed for no apparent reason? Do you consider you have many warm friends? So all of these you had to answer as either kind of yes, no, or sort of neutral, I guess. So that there we
I
go.
like
There's
how
my
they threw
answers.
some random kink questions into this, just for no reason. Like,
Yeah,
what's
what did you
so?
catch? Because there definitely are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they
I
mean by strict discipline and
I'm
some of these
just
others on this chart. I'm like, I'm not sure what we're asking about here.
I'm just curious how much financial questions did they ask you? Because I was just, just nosy.
Yeah, no, it's definitely mixed in there,
Yeah,
and it all feels very dated. Like you can kind of tell just from the language that it's a
yeah,
holdover from the, 60s or whenever they first created this. Yeah, and there definitely are like financial related questions. And it does feel like one of those surveys where they're asking a bunch of very similar but not quite the same things, and there's some logic in the background that's sussing out a report, and that's what you get. Though I can't remember if we asked for this or they offered it to us, but they also have an intelligence test that they offer. So those are three ways that they'll kind of get you in the door. They have the personality test, who doesn't want to hear about their personality, an intelligence test, who doesn't want to hear about that, and the stress test. Those are kind of three little, I don't know, ways to get you inside or get you talking to a member of Scientology. So we took the intelligence test as well. So then they separate you. So Carrie and I both got led to like a different registrar's desk. And this is the registrar's office, which is, where they try to sell you on things. And this is sort of the first step in that. So they had this little chart worked out based on my responses that showed kind of these gray bands. These are sort of the normal ranges of human expression on these different metrics, and they've got them going from extremes like stable to unstable, or happy to depressed, or composed to nervous. So I had some very unclear and inconsistent results on my scale of active to inactive, and then my calm levels were definitely off the charts. This is a danger. So that's what they're looking for. Whoever you are, they're going to find something that's a little out of the normal range for you. And this is part of a process called finding your ruin. So they want to find what's wrong with you so that they can sell you a particular path. And there's essentially 8 different ways that you can be sort of out of alignment and that they can then recommend courses to you. So this is just, all of the stuff that you would expect from a personality test where they say little statements about you, some of them Barnum statements, some of them resonate, some of them don't. And then they give you your intelligence score and say a high intelligence is only useful so long as you have data to apply the intelligence to. Scientology will not only give you useful data, but can raise your IQ even higher. This is a claim they make multiple times. And I
Oh,
guess,
wow.
yeah, yeah,
Impressive.
it's it's quite a claim. And then they,
what?
from my aptitude, they say that I could be a junior executive or non-executive,
How can
which
you be a junior executive and a non-executive?
I
What
mean,
what exactly is a non-executive?
feels like non-executive is always going to be on the table, right? Yeah.
Right,
Right.
But if
right.
I
You
wanted to
could
be an
have this
executive,
job or not.
if I
Or
wanted to be
No
an
kidding.
you'll
executive,
never make it. You'll never be a senior executive. You'll always be a junior.
yeah, like I knew from day one I would never get past junior. They told me what my aptitude was. So they deliver it to you in this little sheath, and uh, there's always, just everywhere you go, there's just these weird little out of context L. Ron Hubbard quotes that almost make sense for the context, but not quite. So in this case, they're telling us knowledge of the general underlies rules of life. Wait, knowledge of the general underlying rules of life would bring about a security of life. Wow, thank you, L. Ron Hubbard. That's really helpful, whatever that means. they also give me tickets that I can give to other people so that they can do the same thing. They already want me to be promoting to others. But this is while I'm sitting at the registrar's desk, you can see sort of a diagram of where they're trying to get you. So we're at the very bottom here, where they have their public films, introductory lectures that they invite the public to, testing like what I just took, beginning books. Extension courses, those are all introductory services, and they want to get you doing that so that they can then bring you into these entry level courses. So then you've got, you know, Dianetics, personal efficiency, these other things, kind of based on your ruin. They'll say, oh, it sounds like you have trouble with relationships, so we've got some relationship coursework for you. It sounds like you have a problem, you know, multitasking, so let's focus on your work. And then that will take you up to higher level courses. And then the purification rundown, I might talk about that a little bit later, survival rundown, happiness rundown, and then you can start working up the bridge to total freedom. You can get clear, and then from being clear, then you can start going up the OT ranks, the operating Thetan ranks. 1 through now 8 is the highest and has been for a long time and probably always will be. So we'll see how much more we can get into that. But right off the bat, they pulled me aside again separately, so I can't quite hear what's going on with Carrie, but I start signing up for one of these courses that they're hard pressing me for, hoping that I can get Carrie to as well. So this is just for the book, because they decided with my communication levels being all off kilter, I should be reading this book, Problems of Work. So they sell me that for 20 bucks with a little bit of sales tax there. So I'm already $21.80 in. And then they get me to sign up for the personal efficiency course, and that's $50. So those entry level courses, and again, this is all as of late 2015. So I wouldn't be surprised if these had gone up. And I'll just say anything I'm saying now could have changed, because Scientology does version things up kind of over time, as long as it still remains consistent with what L. Ron Hubbard put down all those years ago. So there's another $50 out of me. I'm already in. They put me over to the side while they're, I don't know, I can't remember, there was some sort of negotiation or something, but this is just a nice little glimpse of the front desk and this kind of, I don't know, austere design aesthetic that they have. They actually employ Gensler, which is a well-known design firm, to do their work. And it's very consistent across all the Scientology buildings. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, one of the first things they did ask us as we came up to the desk was, what have you heard about Scientology? And they wanted to know if we had any negative associations with Scientology. And, you know, we didn't, we could have obviously said a lot more about what we think about Scientology, but we just tried to present ourselves as very open-minded, which I like to think that we were. Also, as you may have seen, using our real names through all of this. So, you know, they have my name and my phone number and my credit card already at this point. So great. And just sitting there in the lobby in the blue building, you can see another constant theme is that they'll just have multiple copies of the same book, because everything is written by L. Ron Hubbard. It's not like they have, oh, this is another one of our favorite authors and speakers. No, it's all just copies of L. Ron Hubbard's works. And you might think, well, he died in, you know, as 86, I think. How much stuff can he have? Guy was prolific. L. Ron Hubbard, whatever you want to say about him, there's many things to say about the guy. He wrote and said a lot. So this is from their internal store. They have this materials guide where they've worked out this kind of hierarchy of all of the printed works and audio recordings of L. Ron Hubbard. It's a lot of material. And as a Scientologist, you're probably going to end up buying all of this twice because they'll like do reissues and stuff like that. So this was my first Scientology book that I bought from them, and I got busy reading it. The Problems of Work, Scientology Applied to the Workaday World. Just the sort of like 50s colloquialism that you'd find in all of L. Ron Hubbard's writings. There are so many great quotes I could share, but every now and then I just take a picture of something that seemed particularly exciting.
I'm kind of laughing at the irony of this paragraph. Scientology can and does change human behavior for the better. It puts the individual under the control of himself where he belongs. And the irony of that is just
Yeah, for a high control group, yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty rich, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you left off right where I was going to pick up. Scientology can and does increase human intelligence. By the most exact tests known, it has been proven that Scientology can greatly increase intelligence in an individual. Yeah, and it can also reduce reaction time and pull years off of one's appearance. So, great claims
Wow, you're
already
gonna be
happening.
smarter and look
We're gonna
younger.
de-age
Yeah,
if we join.
yeah,
Great.
Wow.
yeah.
That's
Weird how
wow.
they mentioned that it was like the most precise test, but I didn't notice a citation there.
That won't be the first time. Yes,
Oh,
lots of bold claims. And yeah, L. Ron Hubbard's research, you'll eventually learn, is just him locking himself away in a room for a long time. Maybe conducting some auditing on somebody. But yeah, his research is a very insular um, process that does not result in any works cited, biography, notations, anything like that. So they wanted me back in there immediately. They are right on top of you. They have your phone number now. They start texting you. They want to see your calendar. They'll ask you, well, can you come back tonight? I think I managed to squeak to the next day, but they had someone who they pulled aside to teach the class for me all by himself, just for me, because it's worth it. They pay their Sea Org members. I at the time it was something like $47 a week for their like 10-hour days. It's insane the amount of work that you put in and how little money you get. But this guy was more than happy to just meet up with me whenever I was willing to come back to the church. So he set up in a little conference room with me. Here's his little lectern, and he's ready to teach me this personal efficiency course. And they have you fill out, this is another theme, you fill out paperwork on everything. So every time you reach some kind of completion or level, they want you to write down your wins, the things that worked really well for you. Never do they ask what didn't work for you. And it looks like I got a photo of this partway through. Like I was being supervised, so I try to snap photos when I could. But you don't want to be too obvious about it.
oh, yeah,
So
that was actually a question somebody was asking a minute ago. Like, do they know you're taking these photos? Were you having to be like kind of sneaky about it?
a little sneaky, and I think you can tell which ones are sneaky. But other times, if like you're in a group and other people are taking a photo, then cool. Now it's cool for me to do that. Or I might even ask at times, frequently in our investigations, I'll say, "Oh, hey, can I get a picture of that chart?" And usually the answer is yeah. So there was one point at the L. Ron Hubbard Life exhibition that a woman saw me taking a picture and asked me to stop taking pictures. So that's one example I can think of from this investigation. So I mentioned they get all up in your texts, and so immediately I've got three regular people writing me from Scientology. Hey Ross, this is I've redacted these names from Scientology. How are you? Yeah, I'm doing fine. What's up? You're coming back tonight, I heard. Yes, I'll be there at 8:30. Oh, maybe it was the same night then. And then this was the guy who was working with me. We called him Ben on the podcast, and we struck up a friendship. But when I said, you know what, I could do 8 o'clock. Yeah, eight's fine for me because what else is he gonna do? He's a Sea Org member. He's got to get his numbers up. So after I completed this first course, I read the book. I was already, I think, a stellar student because I'd read the book and like had feedback on it, or at least I'd read a good chunk of it by then. So I got my personal efficiency seminar, and you may notice anyone well, I don't know. Actually, I'd be impressed if you noticed, but they misspelled my last name. It's a Blocher, Ross Blocher. So I, said, hey, no worries, but just pointing out that this is a misspelling. Oh, we're so sorry. And they like went quickly. We're going to get this fixed. So they came back with new signatures and got me the Ross Blocher signature or the completion certificate. Okay, great. Oh, phew. But then, of course, they immediately signed me up for the next course, and I was back there the next day. And this one, I think this one was $100. I'd have to double check, but this is advanced personal efficiency. So, I'm ready to move up. Again, I get like my own private lesson just for me in this sad little conference room. And now I'm filling out my successes and my notes as I follow along, and I've got my new book. So yeah, paid for the book, of course, paid for the course, and started reading Scientology, The Fundamentals of Thought. Some good things here. Look at this. This is L. Ron Hubbard advice. If a man were to go all the way around an office in which he had worked for years and touch the walls and window ledges and the equipment and tables and desks and chairs, he would feel much better about the entire room. What?
What does that mean?
What? Well,
It
this is
sounds like he has sensory issues.
yeah,
You know?
maybe
Yeah.
this is already hinting at kind of a not a doctrine, but like sort of a feature within Scientology that
Mm.
like you can touch things and get like a special connection with them. And there will be a lot of exercises like in the OT levels far beyond where I ever got in this investigation, where they'll have you just like touch things and acknowledge them, and it's very strange, but it's kind of part of its more religious aspects and supernatural claims that Scientology makes. And as he says at the bottom of this paragraph, this sounds like magic. It is magic. It's Scientology. Okay.
And this is meant to be an endorsement.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
But okay, so they're called, but Scientology implies science. What
Yeah.
it and science is in magic, so
Uh,
again,
yeah,
confusing language.
maybe they might invoke the Arthur C. Clarke dictum that any
Yeah.
sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Oh,
I
they
could see them
misunderstood that.
I could see them justifying it any which way. But at this point, I'd been taking these courses, and Carrie's like, are we doing this? Okay. I guess I'll join you for the Dianetics course. So I've already done all this, and it's just been a few days. Like, they use any available moment they can. So the next weekend, we come back, and we're going to the Dianetics lecture and buying the book. And that one I know is $100 for the Dianetics course. And so I'm getting people, obviously Carrie's getting people texting her, but then they're also texting me, hey, what is your friend Carrie up to? Is she interested in doing the same course as me? And I said, oh, okay, she's actually going to do the Dianetics course. Great. Well, hey, you know what? Let's just to make things official, let's go ahead and buy the ticket right now. And I said, no, I spoke with someone else and she wants to pay on the day of, and they said that was okay. And oh yeah, just cool. All of them are being hassled on the back end to make sales. Just constantly post numbers, and those numbers need to be higher than the previous week, or they're going to be, kind of docked in their effectiveness, and they're going to get in trouble. So all of this pressure coming from all of these texters asking me what's going on. Meanwhile, speaking of things that just don't get well backed up. In Scientology, it has been discovered that mental energy is simply a finer, higher level physical energy. And it says this test, referring to testing the body mass, has actually been made, and an increase of as much as 30 pounds, actually measured on scales, has been added to and subtracted from a body by creating mental energy. No citation. You'll never know when that test happened. It's just L. Ron Hubbard just says whatever he wants to be true, and he seems to have no compunction about doing that. Certain people in society seem to be capable of such casual mendacity, and he's one of them.
Wow, wait, 30 pounds?
Yeah.
Mental energy. Wow.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize all this time I was just getting smarter. That's what happened.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be, what was it, 21 grams, the weight of the soul? Yeah, 30 pounds is a pretty heavy change.
Wow.
That's a lot of mental energy.
That's a 3-year-old.
Yeah, right. You feel that. All kinds of just bizarre examples. Like, look at these 4 examples in a row. The middle one. For example, a man depends upon a woman to keep his house for him. One day he no longer has a woman. He can't keep house, even though before he married the woman, he could keep house. These are the kind of 50s appropriate examples that you get in these books. And
oh my goodness. And they're selling this book to people now. Like this is the book they gave you,
Yeah,
sold you.
I feel like you're right. Yeah, there's very little giving of anything. I was
Yes.
given a couple tiny pamphlets, but almost everything else you have to pay for in Scientology.
I
Um,
just, I'm just kind of giggling at the absurdity of this too. Like suddenly the man would forget that how to keep a house just because he broke up with his wife. Like all that knowledge is now gone. He
what
can't do dishes.
yeah,
Like,
it's a faulty example on its own premises,
yeah,
but it's also
yeah.
just so
It's oh
dated as to be
God.
embarrassing. And there are some things that they've taken out that were truly embarrassing, that were racist and, just uncomfortable in many other ways, but a lot of it's still there. And I think part of this just gets by on sort of the same principle as in the church. Very few people actually read the Bible, or they do, and they seem to just completely miss large swaths of it. And you'll point things out to someone who's just read the Bible, like, well, did you catch this part? And they'll be like, that's weird. I don't remember that. Well, what were you reading? So I think this is something that Carrie and I can bring to an investigation is we'll read your material and we'll pay attention to your material. I thought this was interesting. The first line in the Code of a Scientologist, also in this book for advanced personal proficiency. I don't know what this has to do with it, but I pledge to hear or speak no word of disparagement to the press, public, or pre-clears concerning any of my fellow Scientologists, our professional organization, or those whose names are closely connected to this science. Tells you a little bit about their protectionism right up front. More texts coming in. I had to kind of put the kibosh on this line of questioning, like, can Carrie please pay right now because we need more credits? I said, Carrie prefers to pay on the day of. This is actually the fourth time someone's asked me, and I think we're okay. And so this is where Ben, as we called him, says, oh crap, my bad, LOL, no problem at all. I had no idea I was in line behind so many peeps. It's all good. So much desperation. Here's more of it. Everybody just asking, please, 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 can you get Carrie to pay the $100 now? We just want that money. We just please. Asking what kind of food we want. I said we would both like to have the vegetarian options. So you'll see what that turned into a little later. So we go back that following weekend and we're there for a class spread across 2 days. So we're going to be there Saturday and Sunday. And I always love a good ground floor map, so just happened to snap that in the blue building there. So we're going to spend our time in the chapel. Go into the chapel and we're gonna get audited. What else? Oh yeah, you can see some of the other things on the other floors. I don't know, I just found that very exciting that they listed out all of the layout of these things. So these are our vegetarian options. This was the first of many quiches that would be served to us. That seems to be a go-to. We got some beets, some carrots, we got some artichokes, that's good. It was fine. Some hummus or, I don't know, a potato salad, I can't remember. Anyway, so we're sitting here waiting for our course. And we get our copies of Dianetics that we paid good money for. And we get a little glimpse into this chapel, and you can see the bust of L. Ron Hubbard. It's everywhere you go. Like every building has this bust of L. Ron Hubbard. And then we've got our little, procedure guideline as well. So we start doing some of these basic Dianetics processes on each other. And I'm very interested in all these signs behind talking about various aspects of Scientology. Also during a bathroom break, I get a little glimpse of the Purification Rundown Center. This is $2,500. And when you sign up to do this, they put you through like sauna, you sweat out toxins, you take mega doses of vitamin, what is it, K3, whatever they call it. It's, my brain, give it to me right now. It'll come back in just a moment. But you mega dose on this thing that you probably shouldn't be having that much of, and it makes you sweat and turn red. And then you do a bunch of like running on treadmills or running around the building on the purification rundown. There we go, like this guy who's doing his running in his purification rundown outfit. Okay, but back to our Dianetics processing. So you sit knee to knee with your partner and you ask each other invasive questions, and that's what we did. And then you fill out, what happened in your seminar. By the way, another little behind the scenes thing, they had this poster for, we are the IAS, the International Association of Scientologists, Academy Association. Anyways, you see this, again, this strange fixation with touching people. So this is a touch assist. This is a little like first aid Scientology thing where you figure out where someone was hurt. And then you, if ideally, you figure out what hurt them. Like, was it the hot stove? Okay, well, let's go touch your arm to the stove again. At least they'll wait for it to cool down. But they feel like somehow this is going to help you. If the car ran into you, you touch your knee to the bumper again, and that somehow helps distribute energy. Who knows?
These are claims that, as Bill Nye says, we could test. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You could test
seems
these
like
things.
if this worked, it could easily be tested and documented, and there
Yeah,
could be a citation
this could be
for
subjected
the
to
source.
a blind test, though I will say, kind of like with acupuncture and some other modalities, like this only ever gets measured on a scale of pain perception, which is
Aha.
very personal. So obviously, they're not claiming to regrow limbs or anything like that. That's like really visible or measurable. Wouldn't it get better on its
Mhm.
own? So
Got
the
it.
next day we come back on Sunday for part two of our Dianetics class. And so more of this knee to knee sitting, more and more telling each other awkward stories where you're going back in time and trying to retrieve earlier and earlier memories to kind of establish like the first memory that caused this trouble or pain or reaction that you have in life. And later on, you'll learn that these even go into past lives. And in fact, I think they were already encouraging us at this point to start going into the womb to recover memories from there, things that were said. They fed us more quiche, and this time we got an avocado and some fries. Those are the veggie options. But finally, after a long day, and I was there at the church for 22 hours that one weekend across 2 days, which is just insane. But finally, we get our certificates, and you can see here we are with our certificates in front of an exploding volcano. And I took the opportunity to ask the guy who was leading the session, "Hey, what's the significance of the volcano?" Just playing dumb. And he said, "Huh, that's a good question. I'll have to ask." So either he pretended not to know or he didn't know. But of course, the volcanoes are part of the lore of Scientology that you find out at OT3 about thetans being dropped into volcanoes. Yes, in your lovely background, Helen, perfectly matched with the current slide. You'll also notice for all of their efficiency, they misspelled Carrie Poppy's name as well. It ends with a PPY, not PPIE. So we got a good chuckle out of that
Does that
as
mean
well.
that her certificate is null and void because it's not spelled correctly?
You know, that and $5 can get you a Coke at a restaurant.
Right.
And this was finally my moment to ka-ching, cash in on Scientology. They gave me a check for $15 because I was seen as the one who referred Carrie to take courses. So I got this is my little bit of payola, my little kickback for getting Carrie involved in all this.
But
So
it's not a pyramid scheme,
that's right.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But this gives you,
Out of that $50 you spent.
yep,
And how much did
exactly.
you pay for how much did you pay for the seminars?
The Dianetics course was
Yeah.
100, and you pay for the books separately, I believe. Like the books don't come with the courses. So at this point, I've definitely paid over $200.
You mean
I'd have,
gas money.
oh yeah, yeah, no kidding.
Definitely your gas money. And
Yeah,
that's it.
absolutely.
Woo!
So that's how we got started. But then we rapidly did a bunch of other things, and just in the interest of time, and also me not pulling all the photos, I'll just run through a few little highlights. But we ended up doing a lot of Scientology related activities within a couple months before finally they figured out who we were and kicked us out. So we went to the Celebrity Center, for example, and they were going to have this course for young actors trying to break into the industry. As you know, Scientology, that's one of their big selling points is that they can help you get a career in Hollywood. And look, some of the biggest celebrities in Hollywood, Tom Cruise, of course, well, I think of Nancy Cartwright, who's the voice of Bart Simpson, and John Travolta, and who's the lady from The Handmaid's Tale? Why
Oh,
why can't I think of her name right
wait.
now?
I didn't
Moss.
realize.
Yeah,
Oh,
Elizabeth Moss, is that it? Anyways,
She's in Scientology?
she's a Scientologist. Michael Pena. There still are some actors and performers who are Scientologists, but for them, they created this Scientology Celebrity Center on Franklin in Hollywood, and the idea is to bring in the high class clientele. So this is one where definitely they want to sort of shake you down before you even get in the parking lot. And it's this really lovely building with these turrets and this restaurant. Let's see, I think we'll get another view of it in a second, but nice building. And when you hear the stories from Leah Remini and other, ex-Scientologists who were highly placed celebrities, they spend a lot of their time in this building getting their services. There's also the Renaissance restaurant there, which I actually recommend if you're in the area and you want a good brunch. The food is actually quite tasty at the Renaissance. I'm curious if they're trained to recognize me there, if they would turn me away or not. So if someone wants to get brunch with me sometime when you're visiting, let me know. We'll head over to the Renaissance Hotel. And let's see, inside is quite lovely as well. Again, the ubiquitous L. Ron Hubbard bust, he's everywhere. And they've got displays about like the analytical mind versus the reactive mind. The reactive mind is what you're trying to get control over in the early stages of Scientology. They're talking about the dynamics of existence, which are represented on that 8-pointed cross. I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands. I'm not, these are extraneous gestures, but I'm having fun. But the 8 dynamics are these kind of aspects of yourself as a thetan that Scientology can work on. So you've got the sex dynamic, the group dynamic, the all mankind dynamic, the physical universe dynamic, the spiritual dynamic. And they're also warning us about all of these dangerous toxins found in the body, which the purification rundown helps you get rid of so you can be clean going forward. It doesn't mean they won't charge you $2,500 again in the future and have you do it a second time. But also, Rich, because everywhere you go on Scientology grounds, you'll find anxious Sea Org members smoking up a storm. It's so common and it seems to get a complete pass. Whereas in every other aspect, they want you to stay away from all drugs and live a clean lifestyle. Other displays here talk about the separation of the mind, the body, and the thetan. So you were taught very early on, you are a thetan. That is essentially your soul component, what they called in Scientology. Here's the latest model, Quantum Mark 8 e-meter. That thing will run you, well, actually, I'm not sure what the current prices are, but it's at least $5,000. Because that's what it's been in the past. Maybe $7,000.
Oh,
It might be more than
what's $5,000?
the e-meter.
That
And
e-meter is $5,000.
yeah, and if you're an auditor, they want you to buy 2 of them. Yeah,
Are you serious?
I'm gonna say minimum $5,000. It might be higher, but I know it's at least $5,000 to buy one of those new. Yep.
Okay, I'm done. I'm done being flabbergasted.
It's an expensive religion. My quick summary for people is, have you ever been to a timeshare presentation? Well, that's what Scientology is to religion. If a timeshare presentation became a religion, because they're constantly trying to just squeeze every last dime out of you. Food, again, quite good at the Renaissance Hotel, even with like just veggie options. Lots of good stuff there. Also, of course, everywhere you look, there's going to be L. Ron Hubbard, but they've got all these like dedicated magazines just about Ron and his life. They've got the celebrity magazine, so you've got your Scientology celebrities. And this one you can't buy on the newsstand, so it's fun to see it there at the Celebrity Center. So we did take our little intro to getting into the acting industry course, and that's what brought us in here. But at the end, they're really trying to sell you on, and it was a hard sell. Like they kind of sit there and watch you while they pass around this form. They want you to sign up for this $71.80 life improvement course and book. Another fun thing we went to was the L. Ron Hubbard Life exhibition. So you can go in and learn untrue things about L. Ron Hubbard's life. They've really amplified every aspect of his military service, of his childhood. They like try to sell that he was like a brother to the Blackfoot tribe. And if you ask the Blackfoot tribe, they say, no, we have no knowledge of this guy and we don't offer brotherhoods to anyone. We don't know what this is even supposed to be about. So lots of inflated claims about L. Ron Hubbard's amazing life. This is a little nod to his acknowledged science fiction. And this might be the closest thing to a representation of Xenu that you'll find in any Scientology building. I don't think it's supposed to be him, but it's supposed to be some kind of galactic space lord, which,
I love it.
yeah. And we also learned from Chris Shelton, who's been here at RfRx, that in some of the original materials, you can hear and see L. Ron Hubbard writing the word Zemu instead of Xenu. So that might be the proper pronunciation. That blew my mind. So that,
Wow. So you could be like, I guess not praying to the wrong deity, but I mean, it could be, what if you're angering Xenu every time you call him that?
yeah, these are the things you have to worry about. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And they
So
said we were going to be less stressed.
I have a
I'm
and
not
question.
buying it.
Like this seems like an absurd question, but do people think that Zemu or Xenu is still alive? Like it's still an entity out there, or do you think it's just part of the mythology that L. Ron Hubbard created?
that's a good question
Yeah.
because like that Xenu was on the timeline like 75 million years ago. That's when
Right.
his part of the story takes place. You know what? I feel like I might have had an answer to that while we were actively investigating, but I don't recall if he's supposed to still be alive. Of course, we are Thetans, so
Oh,
like
true. So
we are eternal beings, so I assume he is as well. Um,
I'm gonna
but
have like now I'm gonna have to fall down a weird Scientology deep dive
yeah, I
on
can't
Zemu or Xenu or
I can't
Be
speak to his
careful,
current
Helen.
whereabouts.
I am. And then I'm gonna spend $71.80.
Hey, while you're doing it, there's so much fun like
You
side
didn't
rabbit.
tell them you worked at Disney, did you?
I didn't. You know what? Actually, I did, and there were some fans there that I interacted with, like
Oh, that's cool. All right.
people who like Disney stuff. Yeah. Well, and that's always easier for me when I'm in an investigation and someone asks me, "Oh, so what do you do?" I can just say, "Oh, I work in animation," and that's fully true, and it is my
Right.
day job, and that usually distracts people and leads to a side conversation. I never have to talk about my night and weekend job on the podcast. There's so many fun sidebars here, like that Space Jazz album that you see in the picture. Definitely give that a listen. You can find it online. Listen to Space Jazz. It's amazing. L. Ron Hubbard composes the music. It's awful. Yeah, good
Oh,
stuff.
wow. Does he
Uh,
perform it as well?
oh yeah, oh yeah. And oh yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about preservation
Um,
efforts of his material later. But
Kara,
yeah,
you need to listen to Scientology music. It is wild. Everybody that's in the audience, go online and look up Scientology music. It is a trip. But the stuff with Chris Hayes is awesome.
I'm
yeah,
in.
No,
yeah,
Isaac
yeah.
Hayes. Sorry, Isaac Hayes, not
Yeah,
Chris Hayes.
Isaac Hayes. Isaac
Isaac
Hayes,
Hayes.
also a
Yeah, check out.
Scientologist. Chick Corea, the musician, the late musician, also a Scientologist. They had some talent in their ranks. Um, so yeah, at his life exhibition, this was also the most e-meters I've ever spotted in one place. So that's pretty fun. Get to see some of these early versions of the e-meter, which is just 1/3 of a um, lie detector test, which you already know is not reliable. But essentially, it's just a skin conductivity test. When you hold on to those cans, as they're called, and originally they were just cans that had food in them, like those kinds of cans. Um, if you hold on to them, if you squeeze them tighter, you get more surface area contact and the needle will move up. So you can modulate that however you want to, but they feel that they are measuring the weight of a thought. So that's what they say, is that they are sensing your thoughts. And the people within Scientology really believe it, that their internal thoughts and anguish are coming out, and they use this as kind of a confession device to get you to spill secrets, and they write it all down, as we do after every single piece of coursework, write everything down. Of
Which is
course,
also how lie detectors work, too.
oh, so yeah, at least the one part of them is the skin conductivity test, and that's supposed to be a stand-in for your nervousness, essentially. Like, are you sweating? That will increase your skin conductivity. But then the lie detector also has like a measurement around your chest to like
Mhm.
measure how much you're breathing, the intake of air, and also oh, what's the other piece of it?
I think it does your either your blood pressure or your heart rate.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know why my
But it
brain. Yeah,
also
I think you're
just
right.
gets you to confess.
Yeah, right, right. The idea is just to get you to believe that they know if you're lying, and then you're gonna hopefully tell the truth as a result. But just like with a lie detector test, there's ways to get around it. And then, of course, you've always got the bust of L. Ron Hubbard everywhere you look, that same exact piece of artwork. But then also a nod to all of his spoken words. So he also has a lot of audio recordings. And over the years, they've tried different formats. And now they have this Center for Spiritual Technology, Center of Spiritual Technology, CST. And that's actually the organization that David Miscavige runs. And they're the ones who like preserve his L. Ron Hubbard's spoken word on what are these records made of titanium, I think it is, and they've got, or is it nickel, and then they've got like a coating on them. Anyways, they're supposed to last like over 100,000 years or something. They're supposed to last and survive a nuclear fallout. So you've got these buried vaults of L. Ron Hubbard's works, and isn't that a horrible thought that somehow humanity gets blown away and all people find of us later is the works of L. Ron Hubbard preserved? Yeah, wait, I'm trying to remember. I think I want to say titanium, but there's like a nickel, like little like sleeve that you have to remove before you can listen to it, and they have the little record player. Anyways, they're using high quality materials, and at the very end, they have this crazy display of just all of L. Ron Hubbard's awards and recognitions, and music plays, and these multiple wings of awards separate to reveal more awards, to reveal more awards, and finally the picture of the man, the great, the legend, L. Ron Hubbard. It's very dramatic. I think there's trumpets involved in the music. It's hilarious. And you learn very quickly that L. Ron Hubbard would go around and or have his people go around and like request different governments to write him a little like proclamation of him being a businessman or him being a visitor, whatever he could get, like a piece of paper with his name on it. He was all about it, and he would collect all these things, and now they make a big show out of it. So I am rapidly running out of time, but I'll just say we did a lot of other things for the podcast. So we visited like the Way to Happiness location in Glendale. They have a special kind of museum and outreach devoted just to this. I think it's 21 precept book, this tiny book, one of the few things they'll actually give out for free about the way to happiness. And that's supposed to be L. Ron Hubbard's kind of answer to the Ten Commandments, if you will, just ways to live a better life. We went to the Scientology, what is it, the Psychiatry and Industry of Death Museum. And internally, they have like all these exhibits that essentially blame the Holocaust on psychiatry and the 9/11 bombings on psychiatry. And really all comes down to Dianetics being rejected by psychiatry reviewers back in the early 50s, and L. Ron Hubbard holding a lifelong grudge against the whole establishment. That's why they're so very anti psychiatry. And we also attended like one of their Sunday services. I talked about attending the Author Services International building on one of their live shows that they do, and then getting in on a little background tour where they showed us the preservation techniques for all of L. Ron Hubbard's works. Carrie went to one of their New Year's events. I got invited after I was kicked out of Scientology, and I guess I should briefly tell that story. They did eventually look me up. I assume at some point they had to perform a Google search, and they saw that I had a podcast where I report on religions. They told a whole story about like the woman who confronted me told me that she had a Mormon friend who said, "Oh, how weird that you know a Ross, because there was a Ross who investigated Mormons." She made this whole ridiculous story just to say, "Is that you? Are you investigating Scientology?" And then they ushered me out of the building. It was super awkward. But afterwards, they still kept, and this came up in the poll earlier, they still kept sending me mail. They still kept sending me emails. So they invited me to the L. Ron Hubbard birthday celebration. I went there and I kind of live reported on it and posted a picture to the podcast page. And they were monitoring our social media. So they came and found me. You could see them like walking the aisles and like triangulating where I had been sitting, and ushered me out of that celebration. This is Lon, the guy who followed me around to make sure that I actually left the premises.
That's a nice suit.
Yeah, yeah, he was looking
Stabber.
Absolutely. And so many other fun little things in our ongoing investigation. There are many other pieces of it. So more photos that I did not include, but I thought it would be fun just to include also the store, their internal store there at the blue building, and this is where you can buy your e-meter and your clear bracelet. And again, these are things where you have to have certification to buy them. You can't just like say, "Here's my money." I'm not sure what the clear bracelet legitimately costs. Like, obviously, you've already paid in thousands of dollars by the time that you would get to the point where you could pay for this. I think it's probably an additional $1,000. But I'll show off my Scientology clear bracelet that I managed to get on eBay, which is not easy to do because I'm fairly convinced that the church actively monitors those bids and tries to outbid and buy back the bracelets so that they don't get out in the wild to people like me. But I managed to buy two at the same time. So Carrie and I now have matching Scientology bracelets, late 1970s designs, but still pretty awesome. And I never got to take my purification rundown, the $2,500 course where I could have had all the toxins leached out of me. But Carrie bought me a purification rundown outfit. So here's a fun little video that we produced after our investigation, after they'd already kicked us out. Here you go. Hi, this is Ross, and never got to do my purification rundown. And what do you know, for my birthday recently, Carrie Poppy bought me this wonderful purification rundown workout outfit. It's a ladies cut, but it fits me okay. I think this is the best way to christen it, to take it for a run around the LA org behind me here. So I'm gonna get started, and Carrie's gonna mark my progress. Okay, I'm on my way.
This guy does not like this. How's your rundown? Detoxifying?
Tiring, oh my goodness. But gonna keep going. Feeling
Detoxifying? Good.
I need it.
Cool.
All right, that was 2 laps.
Those people are speaking another language, so I don't even know.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So that's the other guy I saw over there.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people, some friendly nods, some suspicious looks. It's about what I'm used to at the Church of Scientology, so I'll keep going.
Okay, cool.
Fine. I had a bicycle cop come along and follow me for a bit, or a security guard. He said, "I want to make it clear to you that you are not welcome on the premises." And I said, "Oh yeah, no problem. I won't be on the property at all."
Cool.
Yeah, running strong.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's hot out here.
Yeah. How many laps is that?
I think 4.
Okay.
Maybe losing count. I had 2 gals this time. They were kind of looking at me disapprovingly. They were dressed in Sea Org outfits. One of them said out loud, "It should be, shouldn't it?" And she didn't account for the fact I couldn't hear the first half of her sentence. Or she wasn't talking to me. She's just very loud in the middle of her sentences.
Strange.
Yeah. All right, let's do one more.
One more?
All right.
One more.
2.37 miles.
All
I
right.
feel very purified.
Yeah?
These shorts are a little loose, but you know, still good.
Yeah, you want to model the outfit for us? Pretty good. Pretty feminine. And so you're officially not allowed on Scientology grounds?
Yeah, they did make that very clear.
Okay. You think you're suppressive?
Feeling a little suppressive, I guess.
Yeah. But purified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey! Well, 1 for 1.
All right. See y'all.
So, so that was us just causing a little bit of trouble, all in good fun. But it did bring out a lot of people who were keeping eyes on us. It was suddenly their job to kind of follow us around or keep us on camera. And then I had the bicycle guy come by to tell me that I was not allowed on premises. Totally fine. So I am not an official suppressive person because I was never like an official Scientologist. They revoked our International Academy or International Association of Scientology memberships very quickly. And then after I showed up for the birthday event, they stopped sending me emails. And I can't remember what I did, but I did eventually get them to take me off the mailing list because they were, I think I just posted online some of the stuff that they'd sent me by mail. So that's one way to get off the mailing list or off the phone calls if you publish a podcast about them. But even though I don't have an official goldenrod sheet that says I'm a suppressive person, Carrie and I are both on the Rogues Gallery list. So that is a book that everybody who works at the front desk at a Scientology organization in Los Angeles or works as a security guard has to memorize our faces and learn to recognize us. And yeah, even if I've got a full beard, they were standing out front when we went. This was just late 2022 for their winter festival. I stopped by and the guy kind of looked me up and down. And as I started to walk inside, he said, "Hello, Ross." And I said, "Hello." And I kept walking in and he's like, no, you can't go in there. So every now and then we test the perimeter fences like the velociraptors just to see if they still recognize us. And they do, which is kind of an honor when you consider, knowing someone by their enemies. If I have to upset a certain group, Scientology's okay by me. And this was one of the first, a screen grab from one of the first DVDs they gave me. All men have inalienable rights to think freely, to talk freely, to write freely their own opinions, and to counter or utter or write upon the opinions of others. I'm going to take it on L. Ron Hubbard's word that I'm totally validated in sharing my own opinion on Scientology's ideas. So with that, I will stop the share.
Wow. Yeah. And so, I mean, you paid for that bit of guidance. So, I mean, how can they tell you you're not allowed to exercise it?
Right?
I
Yeah.
At least you
love
got
it.
something good out of Scientology.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and
I love that.
I was ready to pay the $2,500, and I was meeting with them, working out how is this going to work into my schedule, because they were asking me, your day job, how much do they respect you? It's like, well, quite a bit. Okay, so you think you can come in 3 times a week in the morning? I was like, well, they respect me because I do my job. I can't just like show up at noon 3 days a week, and that's going to be okay. So we were currently like debating over schedules, and then they dropped the bomb on me that they knew who I was and kicked me out.
Wow. And so how did that conversation go? Like, I mean, they told you this made up story about someone heard your name was Ross and we wondered if it was you because that's such an unusual name, like obviously BS, but like, is it like you're banned from all premises? Like, did they give you like a way to work your way back? Can you pay your way back in? Are there options?
That's a good question. That would be tough to do, but they do have like kind of a series of things that you can do as a former Scientologist, kind of earn your way back to good graces. Not a pleasant path. And Chris Shelton, I know, can speak to this with a lot more detail. But yeah, essentially, there's a lot of money you have to pay and goodwill you have to show. But theoretically, one could get back in the good graces with enough money and time and signs of goodwill. But yeah, essentially, she told me this, and instead of just saying like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll leave now," I said, "All right, well, I told so and so I was going to sit in on the class, and I was actually attending a little class on how to talk people into joining Scientology." And oops, I've accidentally raised my hand with my gesture. But I so I went over and I was attending that, and I was writing down little techniques for convincing people to join Scientology, which included like finding their ruin and everything. And then they brought over someone to whisper to the instructor of that class, presumably telling them about me. And then they told them, oh, there's a phone call for you. So the guy goes and takes the phone call, and it's presumably about me and how they're going to handle me. And then finally they come over and say, hey, two Sea Org members come over in their suits, their vests, and they say, hey, will you come with us? We'd like to show you some displays. Okay, so I walk with them on either side of me, almost frog marching me out of there. And they take me to some displays on the first floor, and they say, well, if you ever want to, you can come back and you can see this stuff available to the public. Thank you. Have a nice day. And it was this kind of like, get out of here, clear message
Ooh.
that I got from them.
Interesting. So it was very much like they're trying to not make it be an open conflict. They just, asked you to accompany them to the public area and then
Yes.
deposited you there. I
Yes.
love it.
I wonder if it is localized, because like they're like, I live an hour from the Clearwater
Oh, wow.
Center. So
Oh,
if
yeah.
you went to the Clearwater one, I wonder if they would have you on like a suppressive person list, like if people don't let them in the building. Like I'm curious now.
Yeah, I would love to know. Like, I was in Portland, or let's see, I think I stopped by at the Portland Scientology, or maybe it was in Washington. Anyways, I did stop by at one outside of California, and they didn't seem to recognize me there. Though, I don't know, I was standing around for a while, and then a woman like looked like she urgently was taking a message and had to leave the room, and I got paranoid and thought like, uh-oh, like maybe someone saw me on camera. I don't know. I think I was probably just imagining things. And I saw the Scientology Center in Edinburgh, right on the kind of the main road there. And then my wife is like, no, leave them alone, not on our vacation. So I didn't get to test to see if they recognized me there. But I'm guessing not. I don't think that would be efficient for them to be ready and waiting for me anywhere in the world.
Right. Yeah. I was just curious, because like I'm just curious, like, because I know there's more than several people that they don't want anywhere near their centers. So I'm curious of how far the reach is.
It's a good question.
Because it's just one of those things that kind of floats around in the back of your brain, because they're weird.
Yeah, I think if you're a bigger target, if you're a Mike Rinder, if you're Leah Remini, if you're one of these highly placed former members, they probably recognize you anywhere. But I imagine I'm more of a local phenomenon.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one way to find out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gladly.
Like if
test
you're
those
ever in
perimeter
Clearwater,
fences.
if you ever come to the Sun Coast of Florida,
Yeah.
we'll do a day trip.
Great. Oh, I'm down for that. That sounds fun.
That's great. Okay, well, we've got questions for you. So I guess let's before we go to questions, where can people find you? I've got your link here for your website. It's rossblocher.com, right?
Woefully out of date, but yes. Yeah.
Okay, is there a better place people can find you?
Oh, I mean, you can follow me on the social media I'm on. Facebook's a good place to connect. And then onopodcast.com and maximumfun.org is our podcast network. And we have a page on Facebook, so facebook.com/onrac, ONRAC, probably the place where we post the most content. And oftentimes photos like these. Some of them were already on there, but there's a lot of original or new material here in this presentation.
Oh, excellent.
I did
go ahead.
find how much a rare Scientology bracelet is worth, the clear bracelet from the 1970s. A rough assessment just payments up to $128,000 to reach clear, another $33,000 to reach OT 3, and an additional $100,000 to $130,000 to reach OT 8, which is the highest level currently available. The back of the bracelet is engraved with the words. So you have to spend over $130,000 and then some.
Yeah,
to get a bracelet.
Well, to get clear, that is the bottom of the bridge.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'd be spending tens of thousands of dollars to get there. Yeah, to get to OT8, you are spending in the six figures.
Yeah,
It's
so
absolutely.
if we're going by those estimates, that's going to cost you six figures to get a bracelet.
Yeah, I got a
That's
much cheaper way.
insane, and it's
Yeah.
silver. It's silver. It's not even gold.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so here's another question a few people were wondering about. They were noticing the cross sculptures on the walls, and
Yeah.
what do those represent? Isn't that a Christian thing? How does that play into it?
Yeah, L. Ron Hubbard was very clever at co-opting symbology of other groups, and church. The Christian church was definitely part of that. So just like they use the word science to kind of sneak into the name of this whole thing, Scientology, the study of science, the study of knowledge. Give me a break. In the same way, they said, okay, well let's capitalize on the trust and permeation in society that the cross has, and let's make our own. And you have like the Greek Orthodox cross, you have all these various like versions of the cross. They just came up with their own that has these additional diagonal lines, and they are supposed to symbolize the those 8 dynamics that we talked about, the 8 different aspects of the self that one can sort of rise or reach attainment in.
Interesting. Okay, so it's all marketing.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere you turn, they have some clever little symbology. Like on this bracelet, you can
Mhm.
see that that's the Scientology logo. It has like the S for Scientology, obviously, but then there's 2 triangles. There's the ARC triangle and the KRC triangle, and those all have like little meanings associated with them, and they're ways that you can develop yourself. So um,
Uh,
it's
like
elaborate.
when I was looking at the aesthetics of it, it reminded me of the 1920s film Metropolis.
Oh yeah,
That's where my brain immediately went, and which is another thing we can look at that if you want to talk about
yeah.
controlling the masses.
Well, and this is kind of fun too. Uh, L. Ron Hubbard, before he created Scientology, not only was he a fiction author, but also he was very involved in the Ordo Templi Orientis, which is another
Oh yeah, he was
investigation
part of the OTO. I
group.
remember that. Yeah, from my
Yeah,
pagan days.
he was, buddies with Jack. Why can't I think of his name right now? Parsons, who co-created the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and lived with him, and stole his girlfriend and married her. And actually, it was already married. L. Ron Hubbard had 3 wives, and he like committed, I think, bigamy at least once,
Yeah, he
maybe
did.
twice. Yeah. So he was involved in all this like sex magic stuff that he was learning from there, and he incorporated bits of it.
Yeah,
And I think
he
learned
got, and I
Wait,
think,
wait.
well, that's what, but
Sex
that's a lot with,
magic?
yeah, there's sex
What?
magic. Car, I'm gonna have to teach you about sex magic in like
Please
not in a
do.
fun way.
I want to attend that lecture. Yeah.
Yeah, let me
Right.
teach you
So
about
next week, sex magic.
for RfRx after dark.
Yeah, someone recommended in the chat Sex and Rockets. Yeah, there's a couple good books about the life and times of Jack Parsons. Crazy story. Brilliant guy, but got wrapped up in the occult. But yeah, L. Ron Hubbard had learned a lot from, I think, the writings of Aleister Crowley, and learned to kind of work a lot of that into the understory of Scientology, along with his science fiction writing.
I love this because like a lot of Scientology and these new age religions adopt a lot from the occult literature and practices, which is a lot of psychology, because it's a lot about like the will and determination and manifesting what you want to bring into your life, which is just practices of discipline. But they also add like a supernatural element to it. That's why it sounds mystical, and but it also sounds scientific. So I can see why people get attracted to it, because they'll get disgusted with organized religion, but they're like, oh, there's an alternative path I can follow, but it's like I like to say, same salad, different dressing. So
Absolutely.
Fair enough. All right. Well, now I've got to add that to my reading list to hate read.
now I have to read that book. I want to read that book.
Yes. Okay, what other questions do we have, Helen? We've got time
Okay,
for a
so
couple more, I think.
I kind of kind of we're talking about like we were talking about the cost for the books during your lecture. Are people allowed to buy these books secondhand?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're everywhere, which is so ridiculous that, they sell them to you for these courses because you can find them on, actually, I see this all the time when there's any kind of like free little library or a giveaway, deposit location at a library. People will be trying to get rid of these because like a relative just died, and what do we do with all of these Scientology books and audio recordings? So this stuff is everywhere. You can buy it secondhand. You can even find the older versions before they kind of sanitized all of it. I think in the late 90s, 97, I think it was, they re-released everything. But yeah, like I also just in the store there, I bought additional books, or like I got my hands on Scientology, A History of Man. Highly recommend that one. There's so much crazy stuff in there that you think, boy, this should be like higher up the ranks where you have to pay for it to get
Now I
this.
want to read crazy Scientology shit.
Oh yeah, Scientology, A History of Man, I think is the weirdest thing I've read that's like publicly available. And as a bonus, once on the podcast for subscribers, I recorded a sleep track where I slowly and softly read the words of L. Ron Hubbard from Scientology, A History of Man to put you to sleep. It's pretty fun.
Definitely looking this up now. Is that
Yeah,
one?
like I mean, just like become a patron just so I can listen to you read this.
Oh,
It's like-
it's wild too. Like it talks about how we all evolved from like we used to be clams, and that's why sometimes our jaws hurt because what we're remembering
That's
the
why I have
motion of
TMJ is because we used to be
Yeah,
clams.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
That's not the reason.
Is that?
That's
No.
not it.
No.
Okay. Interesting. Wow. Now, is that the book that movie with John Travolta is based off of?
That one is
Battlefield Earth?
Battlefield Earth, which is one
Yes.
of his more popular admitted fiction books.
Oh, that's actually the name of the book. Okay. Because
Yeah,
it had in the film, it sort of has this sort of like people
yeah, very
in
much related.
the
It's all,
past kind of thing.
it's
Okay.
weird. It's like this kind of fictionalized, sort of adjacent version of the Scientology backstory, but sort of compatible with it. And yeah, boy, that was such a story too. Like, David Miscavige was very much involved in the film, thought it was going to be a huge hit, ended up being a big bomb. And so then he like just, he got mad at John Travolta for it. He tried to like disassociate himself with it as if he had had nothing to do with it because it was such a laughing stock. But Battlefield Earth, fun fact, also Mitt Romney's favorite book.
No,
Battle for
no.
Earth is
Yeah, he
he's
was
a Mormon.
asked.
Well, he's a Mormon.
Yeah, yeah, he likes fiction.
I was reading.
Wow.
I'm reading the Annihilation series right now, and that is a much better science fiction series of books. I highly recommend. But like,
Oh my
God,
goodness.
but he made a lot. But that's I think because he was so obsessive about writing. Like he's a very prolific as far as word count and release works author.
Yeah, I
So
mean, he came from the era where you'd write for Argosy and True
yeah.
Adventure, and like Detective. I can't remember, like all of those pulp magazines, and you'd get paid for the letter. You write
Yeah.
a novel and get paid a penny per word. So the guy could just crank them out.
Wow. Okay. Added to my reading list with things that I shouldn't spend my time on, but I'm definitely going to.
Well,
Okay.
when it's in between, we're reading like real academic stuff, and then you need some
Right.
craziness thrown in.
Yeah. Gotta add some fun in here somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I love it. All right. I think we've got time for like maybe two more questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, now this is one I was wondering about too. A few people were noticing that the purification ritual seemed like very strenuous. What happens? What if people have some kind of physical disability, or they are not able to run on a treadmill like that for some reason? Like, are they just out of luck? What do they? How do they do this?
Oh man. Well, thankfully you've got some like 17-year-old flunky not being paid anything to keep an eye on you if you pass out.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
Yeah, it is dangerous. Like if someone were not, if someone were prone to fainting spells or something, I'd be very worried about them doing that whole rigorous um, program. Yeah, I mean, buyer beware. I don't recall hearing of anyone being seriously hurt on the purification rundown. But yeah, I don't think they have proper first aid training or anything. Like they shouldn't be doing that. Niacin, that's the thing that you megadose on. And they give it a vitamin name number, but it's not a real vitamin. But yeah, niacin is what they have you megadose on, and it just makes you
But
get all flush
and
and
they say
turn
that's
red.
the toxins
Ah,
leaving your body. That like
Exactly.
that's why you're getting flushed, not because
Yep.
you're taking a crap load of niacin and you're running on a treadmill for 2 hours.
Right.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah, and sitting in a
wow.
sauna, like super
yeah.
hot sauna. Oh yeah, and in the sauna, they will give you reading material. Guess what it is? It's L. Ron Hubbard's works in laminate, so you can't, so you can't.
So you can sweat on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, like so I'm assuming you would have to sign a disclaimer. Like if let's say you're going there for drug treatment, because I know they claim they can do treatment. I'm assuming you would have to sign a waiver that if you suffered any ill effects, that you wouldn't sue the church.
Oh, that's a really good point. They have a lot of various shell organizations and little groups that like don't claim to be Scientology, but if you pay attention, you find out that they are. Like the Citizens Commission on Human Rights that runs the Psychiatry and Industry of Death Museum. It's Scientology. The Way to Happiness Foundation. It's Scientology. In the same way, they have a recovery group called Narconon, and it sounds
Mhm.
like something legitimate, or like it's related to the other, 12-step programs.
Right.
But no, it's a Scientology front, and it's what they will run to, like if you have like a family member or someone that you send to them, they will help them deal with their addictions, but they're using Scientology methods, and it's all just like not not approved, not okay, not cool. So
So that's where, like, I would assume they would have to sign a waiver
oh
because if
yeah,
you're not
absolutely.
getting, yeah, because you're not getting medically, evidence-based treatment. You're just getting whatever new age woo-woo bunk shit that Scientology is trying to sell you.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very dangerous. Stay away from
That's
narc.
yeah, no, oh, that makes me sick. Like it really does when people are suffering and people take advantage of those people that are suffering. Like it just drives me crazy.
And they feel so confident that they have all the right answers, but your
Yeah.
confidence is not worth anything in this context.
Yikes. All right. Well, let's see. I think we've got time for one more question. You want to ask one final one, Helen?
Yeah. So this should be good for a final question. Has Scientology lost tax-free status in any other countries, like Jehovah's Witnesses recently did in Norway?
I know there's been big pushback against Scientology in many places, and sometimes it's just like citizens kind of posing sort of an active front, like in Ireland. I know they haven't been doing well, thank goodness. I recall Germany being a little stronger against Scientology and what they allowed them to do, but I'm not good on any of the specifics for that. So I don't think any countries have outright banned them, but I think they've made it very difficult for them to do their common like high sales practice. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not an expert on that, so I I'd be giving you outdated info.
I would have to imagine the charity laws and the, of being a religious organization is going to vary compared to the United States, where they had to fight for it,
Hmm.
and they made up some lies and basically harass poor tax auditors. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah, like compared to like Germany or other countries where, that type of status might be harder to get, or, I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of, because I know it'd be very different from like Germany or Ireland compared to our tax laws, so.
yeah. Yeah, and that was a real story. Yeah, if you look up Operation Snow White, you can
Oh
see
God.
what they did to the government to get their tax-free status. It was just a campaign of harassment against individual agents and the IRS itself, until finally the government capitulated. I don't know why. They could have possibly ended Scientology right then and there if they hadn't given in.
Wow. Well, maybe there's a path forward there somewhere. Okay, well, let's go ahead and wrap up on that note, and we can head to the hangout. Thank you once again, Ross, for another awesome presentation. I loved it. It was great. I cannot wait to see what else you do. Let me go ahead and again drop your links if people want to follow you and what you're up to so that they can do that. And here we go. Put it in here. And let me remind everyone to join us again next week, same time, same channel. Next week, we're going to have David Teach out talking about secular death and dying, not to be confused with the Scientology-based program that Ross mentioned earlier. The what was that called? The Death Machinery?
Oh, let's see. Narcanon. Wait, what were we talking about? The death machinery? I don't know.
Yeah, it was
Isn't there a
something.
death museum or something?
Oh,
Something you mentioned.
psychiatry and industry of death. Yes.
That was it. The
Oh,
industry of
okay.
death. Yes,
Well,
this is
well,
not that.
now we can blame Daryl for being part of the system.
No, unrelated.
Unrelated, yeah.
But yes, but join us for that next week, same time, same channel, and don't forget to follow us on the social medias. We are on Facebook. We have 2 Facebook pages: our main page and our support group page. We're on X, Instagram, TikTok, and don't forget, check us out on YouTube, and you can watch previous episodes of RfRx, including Ross's previous episode, All Aboard Noah's Ark, where he shows us his encounter at the Ark Encounter Museum, heavy air quotes on the museum. And so check that out. And Helen, do you want to tell people about volunteering?
I do. So how did Carr become a board member? It wasn't because they're an awesome person. It was also because they have did a lot of work volunteering, and we find a lot of joy of those of us who volunteer here at Recovering from Religion. And we learned also too that healing can help from helping others. And I can say as someone that's been volunteering, I'm 3.5 years. I have had so many wonderful experiences here for volunteering for RFR, and we always need more volunteers because you don't have to be talking on the hotlines. You don't, even if you're more of an introvert and don't want to be face forward, we will find a place for you. If you think there's something that we need, if you think there's something that could be improved, we will find a place for you. You can help host good resources for our clients to use, host support groups, support the online community, IT support, help with the website, or you can help out with our RfRx. You can vet volunteers and interview them. We have a whole team that does that. So there's so much stuff that you just, those of you that just come here every week, there's so much we're doing behind the scene that you don't know about. And if you feel you have a talent that you can plug into our wonderful organization, please fill out an application. So go to our main page and click on the volunteer link and fill out an application. As I'm going to remind everybody, we need web developers, volunteer trainers, and support group leaders. So do that. And on that note, I'm going to mention now that Daryl's going to talk about things, our wonderful president and founder of our wonderful organization, who is our top volunteer. So he can now he's going to say some stuff. So go ahead, Daryl.
Okay, well, thank you. I didn't know I was the top volunteer, but I'll accept that for now. I do have to say this,
You're
Ross,
the best volunteer, Daryl.
Oh.
You're the best one.
Okay. Does that mean I start getting the atheist money? When does my check? I haven't seen the check yet.
Car's gonna give it to her Soros and all
Yeah.
that atheist money's gonna come pouring in.
I'm in charge of that now. I'm sorry to tell you, Daryl. It's
Oh, darn
no.
right. Yes, we should not have put you on the treasury. That was a
I am
bad,
very
that was a bad
stingy.
move. Well, I got to say, Ross, I learned something tonight. And boy, it's disturbing. I did not realize that was part of the death industry. And thank you for pointing that out, Helen. What do I do to get out? What do I have to do to get out of the death industry here, Ross?
Knowing is half the battle. The other half
Oh,
is
okay.
lasers. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a question, and that is the e-meter. You said they had cans to begin with, food cans, and
Yeah.
obviously they updated that. But has there been any regular updating of that technology in recent years? Do you
Oh, no,
know?
there hasn't. Yeah, every few years they'll sell a brand new version, again, just to resell to the same people, make them buy two more. And if you open one up, it's very simple inside. It's
Yeah.
the active component is this thing called a Wheatstone bridge, and it's just that simple resistance measurement that
Right.
allows
Right.
it to get the input. And this is fun if you look on the bottom of an e-meter, and good luck to you if you can do this in front of a Scientologist. If they put you on a stress test, just get curious for a moment and be like, oh, wait, what's this? What's this on the bottom? And just like start reading the little plaque that they have to put on the bottom, because it essentially says this e-meter in and of itself does nothing. It is purely a use for clergy within the Church of Scientology. They've been forced for years now to include this little disclaimer on the bottom.
Oh, interesting. Was he influenced by Professor Marston, the inventor of the lie detector?
Quite
Who invented
possibly. There,
he
there was
invented the lie
another guy.
detector back in 1921, that time frame.
There was a guy who had a great name, something like Vorley Matheson, who created the original version. He was like an associate of L. Ron Hubbard, and he sort of pitched this as like, "Hey, wouldn't this be cool?" Kind of like consistent with what
Oh,
you're talking about. And then, as L. Ron Hubbard does,
okay.
he kind of like fought to create his own version because Matheson wouldn't sell the rights to it. So L. Ron
Okay.
Hubbard have his own built that he could call his own.
Well, it dawned on me, maybe you want to help me on this. If you and I and some other people could go together, we could create a really updated version of the e-machine. There's all sorts of new technology. We've got artificial intelligence. We could have a huge competitor to Scientology within a year or two, I'm thinking. We could call it recovering from religion or something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, as long as we don't worry about that whole ethical consideration thing, sure.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Quick
there
note,
you go.
Madison and Hubbard collaborated together. So
Oh, did they?
yes, they did.
Really?
Since you asked that question, I did a wiki search. So they collaborated together, and
Mar-
Madison helped Hubbard develop an e-meter.
But the person I'm talking about is Marston,
Marston,
Marston.
is it Marston?
I don't know.
Yeah, those are probably two different people, but
Matheson.
Yeah.
I got a
Yeah.
Matheson.
Marston died in 1947, but he was,
Oh, never mind. Okay, never
yeah.
mind. Don't. I
Yeah.
am wrong. I'm going to bow out now because
Okay.
I got that wrong.
Well, okay. And I'll also say I bought my first Dianetics book at a used bookstore in Wichita, Kansas, about 1964, and I read a couple chapters of it, and my spidey sense says this is total bullshit. Even at 14, I was figuring that out, and I don't think I was particularly smart at that age, but it sure did stick out at me.
this is why we
All
need
right.
more groups like this and talks like this to build people's spidey sense.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. You and Carrie have been doing this in 2011. That's amazing. I mean, Recovery from Religion started in 2009, and you guys have been going just a little less than us. So, congratulations! Wow, pretty cool.
Thank you so much.
And you've had a lot of influence because we hear people talking about you. As I told you, before, we hear people talking about your podcast. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And for the
That's
rest of
wonderful.
you out there, I'm sorry, go ahead. What'd you
Oh, I
say?
was just going to say thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And for the rest of you out there, if you want to help us, if you like what you see here, please consider going and donating. If you can, we try to budget our budget off of monthly donations. So you can find yourself giving us a few bucks every month. That would be greatly appreciated.